Hello and welcome to San Francisco Indie Fest. My name is Ian Bignell. I am from Festival Formula, a consultancy company in the UK that helps filmmakers navigate the complicated world of film festival strategy and hopefully save you some money along the way. We are doing Q&As for the festival, and we are delighted to be joined by the team from Keeping Company, a lovely bizarre little narrative that's part thriller, part comedy, part horror, part bizarre, part, fill in the blanks. There's plenty of genres it steps over. And I thought it'd be quite nice for you all to introduce yourself individually. So starting with you, Sora, and what your roles are on the film. I know some of you are wearing multiple hats as well.
Well, mine is simple. I was a producer of the film.
Great. And Ahmed?
Hi, I'm Ahmed Barucha. I played Noah in the film and ate a lot of crafty.
And Jacob?
Yeah, my name is Jacob Grodnick, and I played Lucas in the film.
And Josh?
Yeah, my name is Josh Wallace, and I was the director and co-writer of Keeping Company.
And last but by no means least, Devin.
Hey, I'm Devin Doss. I played Sonny in the film, and I was a co-writer and producer as well.
Awesome. Well, I had no idea what to expect from your film. It starts off with a casual mugging in the street, goes off between some bizarre insurance salesman's tactics, goes into a deeper narrative, turns into a kidnapping, turns into an escape. It goes pretty hectic out there, and hey, who knows what burgers are made of. But here we are at the end of it, and I was standing there with my mouth open going, well, that was a pretty crazy film, but really good fun. So it's pretty sadistic, your film, in places. From a writing perspective, it straddles thriller, comedy, dark comedy, horror, all these different areas. Was the intentions to write a comedy and it became dark, or was it always the intention to have something that straddled these multiple genres?
Yeah, it is. At first, it started off pretty broad in terms of comedy. And as we kept writing draft after draft, it started getting darker and darker. And then we had to kind of take a step back, Josh and I, and we felt that, the tone was getting muddled. And then we really took a step back and said, like, well, what do we really want to accomplish? This is our first film. What do we want to do with our first film? Do we really want to write another studio type buddy comedy? And we decided we wanted to kind of emulate some of the people that we idolize the most, which are the Coen brothers, specifically the way they blend humor and the thriller of it all, the tension of it all, and they play with ensembles so well. So we did a full page one rewrite after like 4 drafts, and we went down this dark path of being able to, we just found that if we really lean into theme and allow ourselves to satirize what we wanted to, it would allow us to balance all of those genres, all of that tone and everything.
Nice.
Yeah, I'd also add to that Devin and I both kind of came up as assistants in the studio system. So we kind of grew up in that studio world, and the film kind of almost became a rebellion against that, in a sense, or a perversion of it, where it kind of has the look of it, but not the typical structure that you would see in these types of films. But now thinking back to it, when you say we started from a buddy comedy and what it is now, it's certainly a journey to what the film became.
Yeah, I mean, I was picking out all the genres as I'm going along, because part of like my job in a Festival Formula is when we get a new film sent to us, I'm always picking out like the genres, trying to work out where does this sit. And I'm like, wow, your film sits in like so many different little pockets because it's straddling so many lines. So it's quite unique. And as the story goes on, it kind of like opens up even more. So I was quite impressed with like where the origins of this came from, because I had a feeling it was like a small idea that possibly just ballooned into something quite complicated. I think the key to your film, for me, is it's got great characterization all the way through it. You've got interesting characters. So we'll start with the character of Lucas first of all, because a complicated, conflicted character that you kind of hate, but you kind of feel sorry for. He kind of reminded me a little bit of Jack from The House That Jack Built by Lars von Trier. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's kind of like that kind of real blank character in terms of like he's calculated, but he knows what he's doing, and he's quite dark. I was wondering, to delve into and to play that role, Jacob, it must have taken sort of like a sick head to find where you needed to be that cold. How did you find playing that character?
Josh and Devin had such a detailed version of the character and what kind of their vision for it. So even from I remember Josh's initial storyboards, where he really kind of had the character built out in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. And then it really was trying to find kind of, trying to find, as you said, kind of feel bad for him. To play him, I really tried to find, he's trapped just like the other ones, and he's even one of the lines. So it's really trying to find that balance of, I'm not acting from a place of evil. I'm acting from a place of, this is all I know, and what I think I'm doing is right. And that's really the line that we tried to play. Not necessarily like a bad guy, but just a guy in an unfortunate situation. And then the characterizations of kind of the stillness and the stoicism. Really, it's Josh, the director. Really, we worked on that a lot. Kind of the. I remember we would do takes and Josh would be like, a little less, and keep the jaw still. And so we really worked on kind of keeping the face as still as possible. So that was a deliberate action.
Yeah, again, that and speaks to Jacob's talent, because I mean he's playing a robot with emotions, which is incredibly difficult, and all that was essentially the motif on set was kind of like, all right, Jacob, let out all your breath and I'll act. So definitely very impressive. It was amazing to see on set where you're like watching this guy, his face isn't moving, his eyes aren't moving, but you're feeling the emotion. And certainly a character that, and Devin can probably speak to this better than I can, that we created to, he's an antagonist, obviously, but he's the one in the film that truly arcs. He's the one that has something to learn. He is the one who has somewhere to go. And even though he's done wrong things, Devin and I, again, in trying to go against the grain, thought like, oh, what if we, treated him as someone who was human? So I don't know if you want to add more to that, Dev.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, that pretty much everything you said, but yeah, it was, we had to do a lot of threading when we were writing draft after draft. We had to do a lot of threading with the character of Lucas, because in our minds, he's the true protagonist in the film, which is kind of a hard pill for, I think, a lot of people to swallow when they were reading the script, even when watching the film. Maybe they'll catch it more upon a second viewing, which we would hope they would want to do. But for us, he is the true protagonist because, yeah, like Josh said, he's the only one that arcs while everyone else is one track. And again, in the world that we built, it was kind of the ugly side of what we see in our own society. We wanted that to be the all-consuming world in this, and we figured, why not have the guy that is actually born into something that is placed him at kind of the top of the food chain, but he's conflicted about it. He doesn't maybe know why. And then once he learns that he's been lied to, and that, things aren't as they appear, that he can start not only just change things, but he can actually destroy it. And that's kind of what we wanted. That was our intention to kind of show there.
It's a very interesting character, to the point that I still don't really trust Jacob now after watching.
That's what I was gonna say. Was so interesting it's just so different than who Jacob is. So like on set, he was like the sweetest, nicest guy, and then just watching the camera, you're like, God, he's scary.
Maybe he's acting as Jacob now, and that's
right.
Yeah.
Ooh, God.
Well,
it's actually quite meta now. He's going to be chasing.
Well, it's funny because I was actually going through some of our BTS photos yesterday, and there are a handful of photos of Jacob on set smiling, like he's in his wardrobe, but he's smiling, and he's like it's all fun and having a great time, and it's just so funny because it's so drastically different. That it's so funny.
So obviously, Ahmed, you play the character of Noah, and
Noah.
And have the lovely task of playing the film's only nice character.
Yeah.
And basically, what I really liked with your character is that wonderful moment you actually have with Jacob, where you're having the indoor campfire, under the blanket, and it's a really nice moment because you actually see Jacob's character kind of like regressing and kind of becoming the childhood he never had. What was that like? It must have been quite an unusual thing to film.
Yeah, that was maybe my favorite scene to film. It was so fun, like just the way I kind of like I nerd out when like it's just so cool, like they put the camera in all weird and try to get the blanket right, and it was just a really fun moment to connect. And because I thought, sometimes I was being like, I think my character kind of is oblivious in a way to everything that's going on around him, and he just keeps trying to look at the bright side. And this was kind of one moment where he actually seemed to listen and connect with another character, which I really liked.
It's interesting because I find your character like the drive of the early part of the film. It's the bit that gets you, because it's got so much weird and nasty stuff going on. It's like you're the catalyst to get to the middle of the film, and then you kind of unpack from there. So I was quite like impressed, and obviously sets up the characterizations, because we then move on to Devon, and you got this other part of the insurance team, and you're kind of like, it's a good cop bad cop kind of situation in terms of, you've got obviously Noah as this wonderful skipping happy character, and then you're like, okay, we're gonna do the deal now. So you're like chalk and cheese, and actually quite abrasive, even from the moment we see you. Your character is quite an interesting character to follow.
No, it's it's funny because playing next to Ahmed and having him play that character, and also Ahmed did it, you played it so well, you played that character so well, you are such this naive, fun-loving guy, but also can be, he can also drive people to a certain point of just being kind of drive them crazy. He annoys them, whatever. And for me, playing my role, I actually fed off of that, because it allowed me to go, now I just got to do the opposite of that. I just have to be a straight up dick, and just fully think about myself. Whereas this guy, he's doing all, he can focus, like just watching him focus on other people. But he was also very selfish too, in his own ways. About, he couldn't stop talking about himself and things like that. It was really fun to play side by side, because that it gave me something to kind of go, okay, now I just do the opposite of that. I can now just go fully one track, be a dick, just be the bad guy, be the bad cop. So when you have a good cop to play off, a good cop to play off of, that actually helped a lot.
You have that wonderful moment. Well, I say wonderful moment. It wasn't a wonderful moment, but the moment, shall we say, where you reject being godfather to his child, and that wonderful moment where you're also fueling your further angst from your dad as well. So you're kind of like, your character really pivots from that moment. You could almost say the beginning of his journey is there. I wonder, Josh and Sarah, like obviously on set, when you're watching all these crazy characters, we haven't even got onto the grandma yet, and the officers, because there's so many stories going on. I mean, it must have been quite a special environment to be in, because I imagine, even from the energy in this Q&A, it must have been a really good vibe on set to go along with that.
Certainly, I think that vibe was there, and obviously, like we all know each other, I think, in some ways as artists, comedians, filmmakers. So that vibe was always there on set. But it was, obviously, this is an indie film. We only have so much time. So thank God we had Sarah there, who was kind of managing all the chaos and kind of keeping us in line. And I don't know if you have any more, Sarah, that you want to speak to for
I felt
what that
lost in a sea of paperwork for much of the production. but did get to come and watch some of the scenes, and that was always really fun. And something that stood out for me about being on set was that much of the crew was really young. And like honestly, some of the most mature people we had on set were the actors. And besides that, our crew was just like a lot of people who were taking up head positions for the first time, and there was a lot of excitement around that. And so it was really fun to work with people who felt like they were getting to do what they'd wanted to do, with and us included too. So
And so just to go back into, I just wanted to speak a little bit to Ahmed's performance as Noah. The thing that we knew almost immediately right away after we had written the script, Devin and I and Sarah, after we kind of talked it out, that Ahmed was the absolute perfect casting for this role, because Ahmed is that. He is just this super
annoyingly
sweet, nice, hopeful, optimistic.
He's not annoying or naive, but
Yeah.
No one likes the happy guy. Come on.
And that, like, so it was just that he was a clear choice from the very beginning. And then to see him, you know, obviously there's a moment in the film where he kind of finally kind of works up to the same viciousness that everyone else is at. And that's one of my favorite moments, to see Ahmed get to that moment. And I think you truly do feel it. And
and that was hard for me to do.
And then
Josh really helped me get that out, because
I was yelling at you at the time. So
I don't want to choke him.
And then, like, obviously, and also just sorry to quickly speak to Devin, who's playing Sonny, doing such an awesome job, because Devin has to be that, you know, he's the through line, he's with us through the whole film. He has to give us that sense of a redeemable character, you know, at least at the very beginning. It has to be that idea of like, oh, this is like a, you know, it is that, again, typical buddy comedy. These guys are gonna, you know, odd couple it out and like each other by the end. And obviously that doesn't happen. And for Devin to kind of ride that line and still guide us through the movie as this just asshole that you hate, like, I think that's, again, just something that's so impressive. So
yeah, I think like with the character of Noah, when I saw him die, I was just like, I felt my world crush, like crush around me. I need to know. Please tell me he somehow survived. Like, and he went back to his family, and he had a kid, and everything was all right. And
I haunt them. them. It's a nice haunting.
Yeah.
I'm always moving stuff, but I'm putting it in the right place.
But it's such a delicate blend, because I think also because you have so many horrible characters, it's almost like it is like evil prevailing. Who's the most evilest that will prevail in the end? Because whether it's from the boss of the insurance company, the grandma who scares me even now thinking about how horrible she is. I'm sure she's alive. And all the different dynamics that are going on, that the horrible father as well, you know. And I think that it's kind of like, who is going to be the biggest fucker that's going to win this? You know, that's basically what you're pitching by the end of this. And I love this merry-go-round of entwined storyline like Coen Brothers, where you're like, where's this going? What's the final scene? Who's going to be left standing? Is this going to work out? And I think that it was one of those things where it was just like a whirlwind. I did love the house as well, because the house is like a prison, CCTV everywhere and everything else. It's a beautiful house. Where was it? This house that you were filming in?
We got super lucky with that house. Yeah, that was a crazy. We just found it's in here in Los Angeles, or on the outskirts of LA, in Altadena, which is just about 20 miles away from downtown. But yeah, we got super lucky. We just found that place while location scouting, and well, the key was a basement, which is very hard to come by in Los Angeles and Southern California. But there are some, and especially over in that area, which is kind of like the old settlement area. So that was the key, and we just got super lucky. And the people that rented it out to us, they were very accommodating, and we were able to, we were really able to turn that into a standing set for about 2 weeks and just do what we needed to do. We got super fortunate.
I like the fact that you kind of dressed the house up in red as if like the house was built on blood. I guess that was intentional, right?
Yeah, you
That
might have
was a
noticed
big
some
undertaking.
red in the film.
Yeah. I mean, it was. I like the fact because the fact that everything is red, it kind of just stands out straight away. It's sinister because it looks so classically like 1950s, 60s house, like untouched, like
Yeah.
this museum, but it's actually like a mausoleum, really.
Well, that was that. That was also that's a fun fact where we actually that was a pretty big challenge for us. Is with that house, we were like, okay, this house is perfect for what we need production wise. They have everything, but the kitchen it was painted baby blue, and for us, we were like,
It was like robin's egg blue. It was like
Right.
electric blue.
electric blue. Yeah, exactly. So it's like in your face, and Josh can speak to this more, but his intention was like red everywhere, no blue except very specifically. And that house couldn't have a touch of blue in it, but of course the kitchen's covered in it. So our fantastic production designer and his team, they were able to. We couldn't afford to paint and then repaint and all that, so they put up contact paper, but they made it look
Yeah, they were
amazing.
awesome.
We got
Yeah.
real lucky.
And they installed the freezer because that was just like an exit to another room.
Yeah,
That was kind of
yeah.
complicated that they had to do. It was great.
Yeah.
Yes. I also like the other sort of thing the film is doing as well is you're presenting a house, a normal scenario in a suburban area, and the film its other thing it's shouting about that I saw is it's shouting down at lower class folks. Obviously, you're kidnapping people in the lower class from a middle to higher class stance. So I like the fact that it was also like a social statement as well, and that didn't go unnoticed with me when I was watching it. So I think that came through really well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's always that's a relief for Devin and I when we hear that.
Yeah.
We're like, oh man, I hope that comes through because that is essentially the whole point of one of the main themes of our film is our kind of survival of the fittest, dog eat dog society that arises from a capitalistic society. So those on top are the ones that are going to win out, and that's what you see in our film. And they are going to utilize those on the bottom to the fullest extent, and obviously our fullest extent kind of gets a little crazy and how they use them. But yeah, I don't know if you want to add more to that, Dev.
Oh yeah, I mean exactly. That's it. We obviously wanted to have some fun cinematically with really just heightening, how we view sort of our class of society. It's global and whatnot, but it's just one of those things where for us we were like, let's just have some fun with showing kind of the parallels of utilizing the trope of genre, especially horror, to just kind of visually show the exploitation and the violence that comes with it. Maybe not to the point that people are selling human meat, but the idea of just profiting off of the people below you. Yeah, no, that was pretty much the main driving force of this whole entire piece.
It didn't go missing on me. I wouldn't be doing my job very well if I didn't see it, to be fair. But I think it's an important thing to have in there because the thing is you can't just be something that constructs off nothing. I also think as well, the other thing that comes through really well in this film is that, again, there is actually an undercurrent as well of mental health as well, because of course, whether it's the insurance folk, whether it's the boss, whether it's the father, everyone's kind of playing around with mental health. And something else that is carried through in there, and obviously poor old Jacob there as well, who's, or is he the character now? I'm getting confused. I can't
right. Yeah.
But it's, but there's a lot of mental health going on there because of course, over time it fucks with your head. So again, I think that came out really well with your film.
Cool. Yeah. That was definitely. I mean, especially with Jacob's character with Lucas, that was the manipulation. We really wanted to make sure you felt the manipulation that was going on between him and Grandma, and how he was being controlled, puppeteered essentially. And I think that is. I mean, we wanted to parallel that with Paula, played by Gillian Vigman, me and Noah's boss, but we wanted to parallel that with her manipulation, with her threats of losing employment and losing your ranking in the system because they can do that to you. And I think that can drive people crazy, honestly.
Yeah. I also need to know how long was it before each of you could have a burger after this film?
Yeah,
That's
almost
funny.
immediately.
Yeah.
He actually encouraged you to have a burger. as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. It's funny
we
because
we had to eat those weird things in the basement. What were those?
oh, dude, those meatballs.
The art department did such a good job that it tasted fine, but it looked so gross that it was hard to eat.
I think they were like frozen meatballs
Yeah.
from Costco or something, which I'm sure are great meatballs when you eat them when they're warm. But they were not warm when they were given to us. They were like they were still pretty cold.
Some of them were also the burger eaters in the like the close-up shots where people are like munching down burgers. So that was done fairly soon after the
Oh yeah, we had to eat all those.
yeah.
I was like, because I remember watching that shot, and I remember kind of like you holding the shot of eating the burger, and I was like, oh, okay, there's something here. I need to be seeing this scene. And I was like, I don't know where it's going though. And then all of a sudden, I was just going through the film, and I was like, fuck, it's all coming together. I know what's happening now. These sort of all came back to like haunt me. But it's a really nice thing because everything comes 360. I mean, everyone actually has their own little arc, whether it's big, small, important, not so important. But without everybody being in the arc, the story doesn't progress. So it's kind of like, it's actually quite a nice surprise at the end of the film where everything comes together so nicely. Which brings me on to a question I always like to ask filmmakers, because it makes them ponder for a second. What is your favorite moment from the film?
That's a good question. Wow.
I mean, I have one.
That's interesting. That's
So my one is you, Devon, walking through the office at the end, covered in blood, and walking into your boss's office and being the hunter rather than the hunted. And I think that was a very good moment, and the one that always sticks in my mind, mainly because it was also quite fucked up as well.
yeah. That was a fun one to shoot. That was a fun scene to shoot, but it was tough because I definitely had to I was like trying to get myself into the mindset of actually having gone through everything. And actually that was one of the first things we filmed. So we hadn't filmed any of the house stuff before we filmed that scene. So I was like, okay, I got to make sure I know what this headspace is and all that. So that was a fun challenge.
I know my favorite parts, sorry guys, but were probably Bernard White talking to himself in the mirror. And him going into the office and berating Paula over Sunny.
I'm the wrong guy.
Yeah, because he just went so over the top, and it was so funny.
Bernie was Bernard White, who played Mr. Reddy. He was so fun to work with, man. Nice. Such a nice guy, and so like, man, we just kind of gave him the road. Like we showed him like the path, and he would just have so much fun with it, and gave us more than we could have expected. I think that scene, Sarah, that you're mentioning when he confronts Paula and then he's walking out and he's yelling at the whole scene. That was a lot of fun. That was a great challenge too, because Josh and I had filmed a different version of that scene the day before, and we were like, oh, this isn't working. Like, what are we gonna do? And that morning we ended up just doing a real quick rewrite, and it turned into, I think, one of the best scenes of the movie for sure.
Yeah.
For me, it's definitely definitely the blanket scene with Lucas and Noah, and just and obviously intentionally the way it kind of hits, and you feel the humanity, and that like there is, even this very, very, very small space, a sense of hope. The whole movie before, like, and again, intentionally, we tried to kind of keep actors from looking at each other. If you kind of go back and you look at the scenes, it's usually blocked where actors are looking away from each other. And if they are talking to each other, it's confrontational. And this is like the first moment where two people are just talking and being human. And that to me, every time I see it, like, oh, I can still feel that initial thing. And obviously, as you know, as you go through the post process, you see this thing like 300 times, and it hurts. But there's some things that still hold up in that scene for me. Yeah, it holds up every time.
Comedy writers get it, I swear, because I've met so many comedy writers, and they understand the barrier between comedy and raw emotion and how it's supposed to look on screen. Because the thing is, you need to make a scene funny and you have to frame that right. You need to get the interaction right. But then that also extends into everything else and other emotions that you're showing on screen. And I think that, like, not to blow trumpets up you, but it is something that you understand, and I think it comes across really well in the film, especially in the blanket scenes, because you get that moment where you're like, they want to be best mates. They actually want to be best mates. It's like a sleep relationship.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Anybody else, Ahmed and Jacob? Do you have any favorite scenes?
My favorite, I think, moment is in the blanket scene, but my favorite moment is Ahmed's reaction.
Yeah.
After I finished telling my story, because I recently watched the final cut, and I just laughed so hard at Ahmed's reaction, where he's just like does not move. Yeah. Yeah.
I really like the last scene with Jacob and Devin, where like with the shotgun. I like your monologue in that. I like how it kind of just wraps everything up, and I really like Jacob's character, like watching him kind of go through that arc, like you're saying, and just like it's a cool moment where he's just like, yeah, fuck it, I'm staying in here.
Yeah.
I'm staying in the meat den.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite scenes too, like just thinking it through, is when Lucas confronts Grandma in Grandma's room, and you just see everything coming, the reality hitting him. But I just thought your performance, even when on the day when we were filming it, I just remember looking at Josh and being like, holy shit, like he's really bringing it. I like, and it was intense. It's an intense moment. It was intense to watch on set. And I think it was just, I think just really satisfying to kind of see his character get to that point.
I think it must be quite hard as well, like playing a character that's main role is to be emotionless. So to go, right, Jacob, off you go, stand still and look stern, but also try to add some character to it, please. It must be quite hard to get that to come out, you know.
Well, he's got so much bubbling underneath, and that's what we kind of worked on as well. And like that scene that Devin's mentioning is really where it explodes out. I can't hold it in anymore. So even though I'm not moving my face, like there's a lot of angst and unknown and counter arguments going on in my head is what I try to kind of play with.
Yeah, and then you've got Noah, who's the complete opposite, where it just explodes out all the time.
Yeah. and that is like the best part. Like I think that is why that blanket scene I think is so effective too, because you see Noah pulling it out of him.
Yeah.
And no one's ever been able to do that, or he's never had that interaction with anyone that they've ever brought in the house or anything. So Noah really is the true reason for his turn.
Mm-hmm. So this film is a 2020 production. How much did COVID affect this film?
Actually, it wasn't. It was a 2019 production. But we were working on post through 2020. And that was that had its challenges for sure, because once the pandemic started, we were like, oh boy, are we going to be able to finish this movie? Mm-hmm. Not that post requires people to gather and all that, if anything.
Thank goodness you weren't shooting it, because it would have taken so much longer to
got super lucky.
Have all the rules in place in terms of health and safety. It would have been a nightmare.
Terrible. I mean, we had shooting in January of 2020, so it's
that's true. Yeah, we did some pickups.
It was it was close, but we didn't really get that.
Yeah,
that's right. I actually forgot about that.
It's crazy when you look back how close some of these films shaved. I mean, I was at a film festival in China in December before.
Oh my god.
And I was kind of like, I'm going to have a shower in bleach now and make sure.
Yeah, that's intense.
Like, that's what got in my mouth. And I mean, I was on an island, on Hainan Island, so it's kind of off the south part of China. But you kind of look at it and go, how many people were coughing around me? Was the flight okay all the way home? Who was I?
For sure.
It's a bit worrying, but then like I think that it's a crazy time, isn't it? I think like everyone's had to do the best they can, and I think film's been really strong. Film finds a way. Look, it's gone through wars, it's gone through a pandemics, and it's surviving. And I think film always finds a way, because you can't stop people being creative. How's your experiences been? Obviously, you're in a a virtual film festival right now, and I guess you've played other festivals possibly along the way. How's your COVID experience been so far with the festival scene and COVID?
Actually, this is going to be our first. This is going to be our big premiere, San
Well, there you
Francisco
go.
Indie. Yeah. So it's our first go around. So far, it's been cool leading up to it, doing events like this and interviews and stuff like that. That's been cool. But yeah, we're interested to sort of see how it plays and.
Yeah, I think like all I can tell you from my filmmakers' experience is that the only thing they're missing is the true networking. You know, where you actually get to meet other people and other editors or whatever.
Totally.
I think they do. Some festivals do offer good networking opportunities, but Zoom is one at a time, so it's limited to how much you can do with that and how drunk you can get as well.
Yeah.
There's no
I'm
point.
hammered.
Yeah.
Pretty drunk.
Yeah, I remember like my last festival I actually attended was Clermont-Ferrand in France back last February, and I spent most of it not sober in the evenings, various festivals around the world and going to these parties and stuff. And like we will get there again, we will. And
Yeah.
They'll be even bigger than they ever were after
Oh.
we can go back after.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, literally, I'm going to appreciate every second of it.
Yeah.
Because the after parties and the socializing, I mean, that's what it's also about. I think that once you get some screenings under your belt, like they start to blur into one anyway, and it's actually like what the festivals can offer you as well on the side. So I think it's quite an exciting thing to have. But congratulations on the premiere. I didn't know, but it's
thank you.
still all good. And hopefully a good experience for you. I guess my next question is how have you kept occupied during the pandemic? I guess finishing the film has been the majority of your pandemic. Is that the case?
Yeah, I think we kind of reached final cut actually in December, so last month. So it's been, you know, a journey kind of like work. I mean, everything obviously in film takes longer than you would ever want it to, and especially an indie film. But the pandemic for this movie was, you know, a little bit of a boon because that just meant we got to spend a longer time with like our score, which is a fully original score, and building that out, and got to spend a lot of time with sound design and color. So all those processes kind of got, I think, extra love versus like rushing it out in any way. And I think again, that's something that we're now kind of, as we start to take the movie out and expose it, that we're getting the benefit of. But beyond that, I'm sure we're all just, I know we're working towards the next thing. So.
Nice. I think like this keeping busy is the most important thing at this time. I think my life has been. We've actually, as a company, we've become busier. We were concerned that it was going to get quieter because no one's going to be shooting, but actually it meant everyone that was sitting on their films were actually finishing them at last. And so it meant, yeah, it was actually putting more into the system, which was quite a novel thing to see. Apart from that, I've been playing Animal Crossing the rest of the time with this pretending so what's next for the film? You got any more screenings lined up, or are you sworn to secrecy at the moment?
No, I mean, we're playing SF Indie, and then we're talking to people that we know out around the industry and trying to, make something happen with it, looking for distribution, that fun game of trying to get it to the right place and, hopefully find a good home for it.
Yeah, I mean, I still think he's got a place on the circuit. I mean, keep on submitting it, and while you still have premieres and stuff in your pocket, you've got state premieres, so you can still keep it fresh. Definitely send it to Europe, have a look around Europe. There's some fun festivals that are genre orientated, like Sitges in Spain. So definitely around. Motel X in Portugal. So there's definitely opportunities for it. There's thousands of festivals. As Sarah's scribbling down my festivals.
Yeah.
What would I be if I wasn't?
Who would I be if I wasn't recommending? So
right.
So it's all good. That's it. I mean, unless there's anything else you guys want to say, anything that you think hasn't been touched or want to say, or are you happy with everything?
I feel like we covered a lot of good ground. I don't know. Does anyone else have anything?
I just finally watched the whole thing, as you know, you sent me the link and that was awesome. I loved it and made me miss being on set with everybody, and such a fun experience, and turned out really great.
Nice.
Yeah, cool.
Well, thank you for making a really.
And thank you. And
Yeah, sorry, but thank you for making a really awesome film. You know, it makes my life easier doing Q&As when I actually enjoy the film. And there's a good story there, and it's coming from a good place. So, well done on great writing, shooting, characterization, and all of the above that we've been speaking about previously. And thank you for your time. Happy Inauguration Day. This is pre-recorded, but it is just after you have a new president. So,
Yep.
and now the UK officially has the worst leader in the world.
Congratulations.
We'll get you back.
We'll take that shit.
we'll get it back. We'll be back.
Yeah, don't worry. Yeah, well, America's the best. We'll be back. We'll have the best worst. We'll have the best worst eventually.
So congratulations on that, and I wish you all the best with the rest of the circuit.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.